get into the meeting. Did you do it
Okay, bye.
I just click the Zoom link.
in the meeting invite or on the website?
Meeting invite.
Okay. I see hands is there.
Yeah.
Hi, Director Cunningham. There's Trish. All right.
Do you want your phone? Just because I phone one, I'm better phone me. Just because if we're having trouble. Hi Margaret, this is Diana. We were just gonna start the rec commission meeting and you said that you were able to be here, so I was just making sure, hope that you're able to come. Okay, thanks, bye-bye. Okay. We've got quorum, so we may as well start.
I'm just sending a text or an email to IT and Shannon just.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody and thank you. We're having just a little bit of difficulty getting in, so we do have quorum. We have Susan and Hans on video and myself and Ian in the room. So we're gonna start with calling the meeting to order at 7:03. And we acknowledge and respect the Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we're meeting today. I'm going to amend the agenda and add at 7.2 2 resignations. Oh, thank you. Excellent. It is. We're just an agenda. So at 7.2, we'll add resignations. So that the agenda for September 9th, 2024, Recreation Commission number 7, Salmo Area G meeting be adopted as circulated, as amended. Yeah. Margaret, any additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so the receipt of the minutes, is there anything in the minutes? I'll give you a minute. The last minutes was February because we ended up having to cancel our last meeting. We didn't have a quorum. So it's a while ago. So we'll just give you a minute to see if anything triggers your mind that needs to be amended or anything. Everyone good with that? Okay. There's no delegation. We'll go to staff reports, the Salmo and Area G summer camp. And I'm not sure who's speaking on this. If it's Tia, are you speaking on this one?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, I will be.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. Good evening, everybody. We had a wonderful summer for summer camps. It wasn't necessarily what we had anticipated as far as delivery. However, the overall results were very positive. As you know, I think Tricia had sent an email earlier earlier in the summer indicating that we were not able to fully staff the Salmo camp, but we were able to pull some camp leaders pull a camp leader from Castlegar to help us run a couple of the camps. So what we did is we ended up choosing the highest registration camps. The rest were actually quite low. So it was very positive that the kids got to be a part of a camp that was very well attended, and they ran for the entire week over 2 weeks, 2 different camps. And I guess we don't have a lot of data to go off of the 2 weeks, but of those 2 weeks, we did receive feedback, and it was very, very positive. The campers had a really great time, and not only that, but the leaders had a really positive employment experience with us. They were the one that had come from Castlegar had done other camps in Castlegar for the rest of the summer, and had noted that Salmo was actually one of their favorite camps to attend, which was actually pretty nice. In the report, we have some of the things that we would like to do over the next little bit with the camps. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the financials. I did not put all the financials in the report, so I will just say that based off our budgeting, of the full camp, there was a budgeted net subsidy of $6,000, which had been identified earlier this year with operating supplies and training and such. But we ended up running with a $900 net subsidy, which actually was a pretty positive. As we get into thinking about what next year brings for us, one of the things that we noticed that was very consistent, not only with Salmo camps, but with all of the camps that we are seeing, is that with some of the higher age groups, theme camping was actually quite attractive, not only to the campers, but also to the parents. And so that is something that we might explore, where you kind of have a little bit more of a focused theme for the week as opposed to a general camp. Instead of trying to offer a full summer, knowing that we may have difficulties hiring next year, we would consider next year only offering maybe half of the camps that we did before. That would mean that if we needed support from other facilities, we could probably garner that support if needed, although we would try and do a better push for trying to get employment, trying to get hiring from within the community is obviously our goal. And one of the other ones that we had was around SVYCC. They had contributed $400 towards campers wanting to, any families that needed an extra subsidy, they had up to $400 that they were able to give out. I don't actually have the numbers as to how much they actually did end up giving out, but one of the feedback that we did have from the camp was that to have, price was definitely a little bit of a barrier for some. So, investigating if there are other opportunities for other subsidy options in the community that might be available for them. So other than that, positive outlook, and any questions if you have any.
Does anybody have any questions? First of all, I'm just going to change this because right now you guys are really looking at the ceiling. So can you see?
I can't even see Joe.
That was on purpose.
Can you see everybody now? There. I just realized I can't see this, so it's too small for me. Anybody have any questions? No questions. I have just a couple of questions, just because I'm being asked some questions. Do we have a total of what actual camp cost us? Like, what did we what did we put in our budget for the camp? Because there was a discussion in February of what kinds of camps we were gonna, there's all different numbers thrown around. So what was the thing that we finalized?
So, in fact, I'll answer the first part, and then Tia, you have to answer what the detail is from this year. So the first part was that the options were, there was a budget that was presented, and there were options that deviated from that budget. The commission chose to stay with the budget, so that was the full camp costing, and that was the $6,500 overall subsidy in the budget.
Okay.
And through the chair, the cost was $900 net subsidy for us this year, offering the camps that we did offer.
And Tia, do you just know how much we spent on the camp? So like there was a $900 net subsidy.
Oh,
Just
yes.
revenue minus expenses. What was the actual expenditure of camps?
$900.
Pardon?
We spent $900 on camp this year after revenue was taken. We made $26.88 in revenue, and
So expenses were about $3,700 then.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if somebody was asking a question. I can't see those little tiny, no. I just saw, I saw Susan's head shake. No, okay. Okay, thank you very much. I just gotta find my agenda again.
So could I just go ahead and just be clear for our commission? So Tia, for next year, when I read the report, part of the is it that it should be a full day camp? Like actual longer hours per day? Or?
Yes, the other feedback was that the parents did prefer a longer full day camp, only to help them out, a childcare throughout the day for them. So there has been a request more than one request that it go a full day as opposed to the half day that we had. Although we were able to utilize the pool in the afternoon, so it did extend a little bit of what the parents did have before they had to pick up the kids. But yeah, we would definitely consider going a full day. Thanks, Joe.
Perfect. Okay.
Chair, question?
Yes.
How many different people altogether attended?
How many different people? I don't know that I have the exact unique number of children, other than.
Can we guess?
15 in 1 week and 12 in the other. I could definitely look that up and get that number to you if you'd like.
No, that's fine. It's just for interest's sake, because it gives me an idea of where we need to go next year. Thank you.
These cars.
Ian was just admiring your picture.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Chair?
You're not on, yes.
I beg pardon, Chair?
No, I was just gonna say that you're not on mute. Ian was just admiring your picture.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. You notice the guy with the 6-horse team looks a lot happier than the guy with the 4-horse team. It shows you if you're going to go any place, you need 6 horses.
Okay, so we've received that report from Tia, thank you. And now we'll go on to the Salmo District Community Complex Quarterly Report. And I'm not sure who's going to speak on this one. Trish, are you speaking on this one, or Joe?
No, I can't. If there's any questions, I think there's a couple things I just wanted to point out in the report. There is, in particular, a comment that the Salmo Pool Society has given us an indication that they are going to, that they're going to dissolve the society.
Yeah.
So just remember, the regional district has no control over that. They're an independent body. So they are gonna pass on the $13,000 that they have in their account. There's a suggestion in the report of what that might be used for. I just want to say that what it will actually, I have to talk to Ryan later on this week, but there were additional expenditures to the opening of the pool, and the most appropriate place for it to go is to those expenditures to cover those pieces. So I just want to give you this little bit of a, in 2024, as of right now, we have net expenditures in the pool of $74,122. In 2019, which was the last year that we operated, we had net expenditures of $60,596. But what the actual driving factors in 2024 are $17,838 of additional expense in the capital project, plus there's extra expense in the actual, I'm pretty sure 5501. I know there's other expense from that as well, because we spent, I'll give you an example, 5501, and I believe that this is repairs and maintenance. 2019, we spent 9,687. This year, we spent 17,320. So the good things about the pool upgrade project, it did, for the project management team and for us, for the management team, it took a lot of extra effort, in particular on Ryan, some staff from Nelson, some staff from Castlegar and ACO to get the pool up and running. We definitely had problems with the mechanical contractor. We had to redo lots of their work to get it open. The good news is that the new boiler system and that mechanical system worked top notch. From what we have heard from people that have gone there, and I'm going to look at an aquafitter, but I have been told that even on cold days, the pool was at temperature.
It was warmer. It was warmer this year.
Yeah, so the pool boilers, definitely the efficiency of them and heating up the pool was much higher. So that's the good news. But there was extra expenditures on it. So that being said, we have that 13. So if you were to take out the 8,000, that extra expenditure, and then the 17, that's 25,000 less. The big thing, in 2019, we spent $51,777 just in staff salaries. So I'm just going to say increase that by 10% for wage increases.
Right.
And so that's another about $6,000, so it should be around 57. This year we spent 36,400. Now that we did operate more
I was going to say
in 2017.
Yeah.
So 2019, thank you. The revenue is definitely lower in 2024, and that's in particular because the actual biggest month for revenue for the Salmo pool is June, and we lost June. So that's a big impact. So next year, there's two things. The mechanical system we now know works. So that won't be the problem. The big thing is, again, is going to continue to be staff. That is the challenge. And we will report on staffing in general come all rec in October, because we just have to give a little bit of an update on the training program that we went all right. So the regional district-wide training program. So we'll see that. Just so we know, the staffing levels in aquatics, I would say mid-summer, we thought they were pretty stable. And I know that we're having some instability there, again, with kids going back to school. So we still probably don't have quite enough capacity across the regional district. So that will be continued to work on. So the good news is that the actual rate of revenue to the expenditures, considering the time of year that we operated, was about on par. All right, so that part is good. But we're going to continue having infrastructure issues with the pool over the long term, because if we remember the report from Cover, mechanical was number 1, number 2, 3, and 4 on that list are not far behind. So we're going to have to start getting to work on that. One of the big pieces that's coming up to the board, as you're aware, is the broader asset management strategy. I don't have an update on when that will be coming, other than I'm still expecting it for fall of this year.
Of this year.
Okay. So that's where we are. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Just before you ask the question, I just want everyone to know that the report, when I read the report, Ryan did put Monday to Thursday. I want everyone to know that the pool was open on Sunday, because I was there on Sunday. So the pool was open on the Sunday. So it was just a mistype in his. Hans, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair, Joe. Joe, now that the society's been disbanded, what are we going to do for the funds that we get from that only the society can collect? Do we have another way of making that happen?
You know, I think so. Actually, as Chair Lockwood and I were discussing this afternoon when we were discussing the reports, we see that challenge as well. You're right, Hans. There's only certain things that local government can apply for. So we're going to have to mine those. We're probably going to have some more conversations with CDT for any of their infrastructure funding. Those are going to be the pieces. You know, unfortunately, looking to the federal and provincial governments over, I mean, of course, we're in the time of a provincial election in that, but all indications are is that funding is moving away from these kinds of streams towards housing. Yeah. And so I think, you know, you see with the work that's being done in Nelson, in trying to bring a little bit of that together in order to bring some of that towards recreation. It's going to be a challenge, because I think that the housing piece has definitely got that senior level of government attention right now. So it may be very difficult.
Okay. As follow-up, Chair, through to Joe, is there any way perhaps we could resurrect the society in order to do this job?
Well, as a regional district, I can't say, you know, I would say very difficult for staff to resurrect it. The community would have to resurrect it. Yes, indeed. That's what I was thinking about. We could have a meeting and talk about the necessity for a swimming pool society in order to receive the grant monies. Yeah. And that's not a lot of work, I don't think, but I can understand the old crew is burned out. But maybe we can resurrect it, and just because all they have to do is collect the money and take it out of one pocket and put it in the other. So, Chair, could we possibly consider that for next year to see what we can do? Because we do need that extra money that we can get from the trust. And this is the only way to get it, because we are not a nonprofit.
Yeah, so what I had discussed with Joe is and it's not staff's preview to reach out to the society to say, hey, you guys still want to be friends of the pool, that yourself and myself, Hans, is we reach out to the society before they disband.
Mhm.
And is there a possibility that I'm going to be writing a letter for the Salmo paper? We'll have it on the RDCK website and Facebook, and the Salmo website and Facebook, looking for 2 more commissioners. For sure, as long as nobody else resigns, nobody else is allowed to right now. And then we can also put in there about, if they haven't dissolved it yet, that we need people to keep this going in order to keep Friends of the Pool, just like the museum and just like the library does, and able to keep those organizations going, that organization going. So, yeah, if you and I can talk with Kevin or whoever is, I don't even know who everybody is on this society. I just know that Kevin was. But if you're up for that, I'm up for that.
Well, I certainly think we need to do something along that line. Because after all, if people are handing out money and we're not in line to get any, seems to me that's a lost opportunity. And the pool does need a good deal of money in the next while to finish all those things that were necessary.
Yeah. Susan.
Thank you. I'm trying to raise my hand, but I can't find it. All I can find was clap. So thanks.
I thought that was a hand. That was very good. Very good.
Yeah, it was the closest thing I could find. It was wild. I appreciate this conversation, and I would just offer that as I think Hans kind of offered the list of, or Diana did, offered, the mayor did, offered the list of the different volunteer groups that need societies to continue to run. And I would just say that at the SVYCC, we're in that crunch as well. I've been on that board 100 years, and I'm exhausted. And I know you all know what that's like. And I'm just bringing this up to say, I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to do something that would benefit a lot of these different groups in our community, to just raise the awareness of, like, there's a lot of us long in the tooths out here who really need you guys to step up. Because I feel like we've been doing it one-off a lot, and maybe we could get some more traction if we did it in a concentrated effort. Anyways, just putting that out there, and happy to participate. The other thing I'm wondering about is, and I know we have the item coming up on the agenda, and I'm in conflict, and I won't be speaking to it unless you have a question that I can help with. But I just wonder if there's room in there. I don't know the intricacies of the society versus the nonprofit, but I wonder if under that conversation around looking at the scope of recreational programming in Area G and the SVYCC, if considerations around how they might be able to support accessing grants could be included. But I don't know, like, how the nonprofit world and the society world interact. I'm not clear on those regulations.
Well, I mean, you can be a nonprofit and not a society. And not all nonprofits are societies, but you can be both. So, it's just that they're kind of have 2 different legal frameworks. But for example, I think when Director Cunningham is referring to CBT and the such, it's that it's not so much that the reason you need to have something that's, and I think sometimes we can use nonprofit and society interchangeably, but is that local government is not allowed to make application to those funds. Because I don't agree with philosophy, but it's that the technical feeling is that if local government is in the business of it already, then local government is responsible for it in its entirety. So then there's other streams of funding from CBT that local government can access, But in particular, sorry, I forget what we call it now. What's the dog night? What's that?
Oh, duck night.
No,
It's residential.
so it's,
REBI or
Yeah.
RED?
yeah, something like that. Those funds we're not able to access.
Yeah, our dog night funds.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, sorry, but there's an official name.
There is an official name, but we call it dog night.
Ready grants.
Ready grants.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it just takes a few seconds.
Yeah. Where that's what he's saying is that the pool, the society applies for that, puts it up on the wall, we can get some funding, just like you guys at the youth center put up different programs to get funding at that, where if it's run through us as local government, that's all gone. So that's the importance of having that.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I guess what I'm just wondering, if it becomes very problematic and we're not able to reconstitute a pool society or Friends of the Pool, could it be something that is included in this feasibility assessment with RDCK and the SVYCC? Because right now, SVYCC could be applying for grants. Like, we apply for grants for the skate bowl, we apply for grants for whatever, right?
And Susan, the answer to that is absolutely. So for example, that's no different than maybe it's different in its formality, but you'd be familiar with the Osprey Foundation.
Right.
The Osprey Foundation really is an overarching umbrella, right? And there's nothing saying that. So, for example, in New Denver, I think it's called Slocan.
Burning Connect does it.
Slocan Communication stuff. I can't. But they're an umbrella organization that applies for grants for many organizations.
They're like the handler of
Yes, yeah,
distributor.
yeah, and so they have a dedicated group of people who do those things, but they don't do them in the silo of just one particular focus.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'm just putting it out there as if we're not able to pull the society together and it becomes really problematic, this could be another way to ensure that we can continue to access that.
Yeah, and through the chair, like it actually, there's a lot of advantages to that because it can also help focus priorities.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on that? That's the other thing that ACO had sent with all the different averaging numbers. I had asked Brian because I was dealing with a lot of other stuff and I wasn't even thinking when I asked the question, and Joe's gonna laugh at me because I'm like, how can you have 11.4 people? But it's all the Mondays in that month, or all the whatever day it is open. So that's how come it was an average. Obviously, it was an average.
It's okay.
But after I sent
We
it,
didn't count you as a whole person if you can. You're welcome.
Okay, so we've received that quarterly report, unless anybody has any questions on those numbers. No. Because Ian was a 0.4 person. So we'll go on to the Salmo Valley Youth and Community letter, and this is from Laura McDonald. Now, this is talking about a feasibility study on consolidating recreation program delivery through the Salmo Valley Youth and Community Center. And I'm not sure where we'll start with one. Do you want to start with a little bit of explanation?
Well, I can't speak for SPYCC, so that might be better to ask
Yeah, maybe, Susan, I know that you should actually be, as you said, you have a conflict. But if you could help us understand, because I have a lot of questions in the letter, because it makes it sound, I don't know. So if you could explain a little bit, because this sounds like it's coming from the executive director, not from the board, for one, the letter. I'm not understanding where this would fit in the financial, in your guys' financial, or why it's sitting here without having all of that information in front of us. So
Like what kind of information?
well, how it would be paid for, to like, what would be the ask, what would be the partnership, who would actually be doing the work? Would it be, is there asking the RDCK or the Rec Commission to actually do the study? So that's why I think it was a very confusing letter for me. So if you
Yeah, so it is coming from the board, and it's coming from, as we took a look at what happened with, what's been going on with our programming and observing what's happening with programming in the community. We're pretty big on not duplicating efforts and actually complementing and collaborating for effort to bring even more opportunity. And I think some of you might recall when we were talking about programming, I guess it's all the way back in February, I was curious about, with the new programmer coming on to look at summer programming, would they be talking with the library? Would they be talking with seniors? Would they be talking with, the curling group, the golf group, like all of the groups, to see what all is happening in community, and putting out complementary and supportive programming. So that's like where we come from at all of this. Is there's a lot of people putting a lot of time and effort into programs. There's a lot of facility that we could be using. We have a lot of facility in this community for the size of the community, and hearing from a lot of people that they're not meeting the numbers they used to meet. They're struggling to get people to instruct. They're struggling to get people to enroll, all the challenges that we're all facing. And so it really is the idea coming from the board around, and I guess it's, maybe we should have just labeled it as such. It's looking at a letter of intention. So it's like looking at, would the commission even be interested in having a conversation or working with SVYCC to take a look at what all the facility is, what all the programs are, and how is there a way that we can be working in a more concerted effort together to make sure things are all going to roll out and we're not tripping over each other. So we had no thoughts around, is it like who was paying for it, what the cost of it was, any of that. It was absolutely just, is there any interest in it, yes or no? And if yes, then let's take a look at all those other things. And if no, thank you, then that's fine too. Does that help?
Yep. It answered a bunch of my questions.
Okay, good.
Okay. So then, does anybody else have any questions for Susan before we move away from her not speaking about this?
And I just wondered, I see there's an observer, but that's not anybody talking to this, I guess. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, Susan, that'll be just somebody that's videotaping the.
Okay. Yeah, so really it's just, is there any interest in pursuing opportunities to see what's happening and how we can complement and maybe amplify the efforts here? That's what it is.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on?
Well, the only programs I could see through the chair is the recreational stuff. As far as the curling and golf, I don't know how we can coordinate that into this program.
And I think that would be part of the conversation is, you know, how do we do that? It would be partly logistics, right? How do we offer these things in ways where they're complementary? So we're not maybe potentially targeting the same participants to go to different programs, but we're doing it in ways that make sense. And I don't, it's not a matter of, the SVYCC taking on any more offerings. It's more a matter of, can we be working together in a more concentrated, collaborative way and utilize all of our marketing, right? Because we had great marketing. SVYCC gets radio coverage for free all the time, right? So would it be great if we were out there promoting all the things?
I know the curling,
Go ahead, sorry.
They'll have also radio, PSA coverage too.
Right, yeah, it's, and I can say that I have coverage right now. Okay,
Yeah,
So
and that might not be the best example, but I think it's just this, there's certainly, we just would like to see if there's a way to solidify more robust programs, right? And that's also from our perspective as well, right? We're also trying to get certain numbers of registrants in order to offer things and see them grow over the course of, you know, a couple of summers or whatever to grow the participation. And I don't know, it just feels like we're all in this, and maybe it could be helpful to work together.
so I'm gonna ask financial questions, and some of it is, so as the mandate is around youth programming, and that's where a lot of the programs fall around. Yes, there's yoga, and there are other different programs, but the youth, the funding primarily comes from CBT right now.
I think there's a lot of funding that comes from CBT, but it comes from a lot of other avenues. And it would be interesting to take a look at what the programs versus the service utilization, right? Because if we take a look at the programs that are specifically put on for youth as compared to the utilization of the fitness center, the mom and me stuff, the seniors, whatever things that might be happening in a season. So it would be interesting to look at those things as well. And I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
Right. I do know that I tried to get the different organizations to get together themselves and be able to talk, and that didn't happen. And I tried that for a few years, and we talked, and there's still, I know for a fact that there's still not that conversation. So that's my only concern. It's not about not having you being partners with you guys in this, but my concern is you can do feasibility studies out the yin yang, and if you can't get the parties to work together, then that's the difficulty that happens. And we know that that's a difficulty in the community right now. There's parties that refuse to work together, or don't work together. So, Hans? Oh, maybe he's not there. I just wanted, do you have any questions?
Oh, there is. Oh,
Sorry about that. I just had somebody at the door. Anyway, yeah, I like the idea. I just sort of, I wonder how we could do a study. What exactly it would do? What are we looking for? Because some of the organizations, as mentioned, like the curling rink and the golf club, I suppose the only way they would actually interchange with the SVYCC is if we help sponsor something like kids' involvement in either of those organizations, right? They needed some funding. But I think we need. I think you're thinking of going beyond that and getting together with sort of a brain trust where we can think of extra things to do, things that we can get people involved in, and also, of course, and then. Because we do a lot of things, agreed, and we have a lot of facilities, agreed. And some of our programs are well attended and others not so much. Looking at other things, and I think Joe can attest to this, the big thing nowadays seems to be getting away from the indoor stuff and moving into the outdoor things, such as trails and biking and stuff like that. So basically, and I'm just talking off the top of my head because I don't know. Maybe what we need to do is, first of all, is to do a needs study to find out exactly what the community would like to see, and then get together and see how we can make it happen. That's my only suggestion. Joe, perhaps you have some things you'd like to say?
So I think everybody said asked or whatever, unless you guys have any more questions right now.
No, not really.
So through the chair, and I'll just ask Trish to jump in. Tricia to jump in at any time because Tricia has lots of experience in this as well. So I agree with this concept. And the concept is you have a facility. And if you just look at that simple campus of facilities, you have what is the community center, so the old school. You have the pool, which is right across the street. You have the tennis courts, pickleball courts, basketball court right across the alley from the pool. You have the field in behind, which is school district, but right in behind. We have a number of things that are disjointed in that system. We have ownership that's disjointed. The village owns the community center. Technically, SDA owns the pool, which we're putting millions of dollars into. Yeah. And technically, they actually own the property that the tennis courts in that are on. So all of these things are odd and unique. They're not insurmountable, but they're odd and they're unique. What we do in our larger centers, and it may be, when I say that, I don't want to say, it's not saying that Nelson, Castlegar, and Creston are applicable to Salmo. But there is a type of use that is applicable because it actually does not change. And that is that people's preferred way of recreating is unstructured. And what that means is I want to show up when I want to. I don't want to be stuck into a program that is at 7:00 and ends at 8. That attracts some people. It does not attract the majority. I want to be able to move freely in the building and use different things. So if we think about the pool in the summer, the gymnasium, the fitness center in particular, those are the three main pieces. The way that we actually have to look at it is fundamentally that we can do some work internally as staff to do a small work. But to Hans's point, it would be much more formal to ask the community, what would you like to see? Mm-hmm. But the way that I see it, if you were handing me those three facilities, I would say we have one entry point, you pay admission to come into the building, and you can do whatever is there. So for example, that's no different than an aquatic center, a rink, and a fitness center. It doesn't mean that you can do everything at the same time. But it means that the majority of the time, you could move between those three. I think a concept like that would see higher usage. Just so we know, the fitness center's usage, I would expect in September, this week, it starts raining. We're gonna see fitness center numbers start going up. But that kind of a concept for operating would work much better than single-use programming. And in fact, Susan, like, over time, like, we had started that. We have staff in the building that sometimes that's RDC based, so there's staff that's paid for already in that sense. So if you were to, so what I would propose is that we draw up a terms of reference. The purpose of the terms of reference is we can't solve everything. So for example, it may say that curling rink, the level of interaction is this. It might just be, just out of curiosity, who owns the curling rink? So I mean, who owns the ground? Okay, so the village. So it's the village's asset. Ski Hill is actually a 10-year, is that correct? Yeah. So Ski Hill is a 10-year, so technically it's owned. The property's owned by the province, but there's a 10-year over it.
Yeah, we pay rent
Right.
for royalty payments.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
So like those kinds of things we can start to document, because I would almost guarantee you, and just correct me if I'm wrong, I don't live here, but most people wouldn't even know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like Susan, you think anybody knows that SDA actually owns the pool other than SDA? Probably not.
Oh, I don't think people have a clue. I don't think people have a clue about who owns any of those facilities.
So I think that if we start to compile that, actually put it down on paper, actually start talking about what those assets are, finding out from the curling rink. What are the long-term plans for the curling club? What are the long-term plans for the ski hill? Like that's the most basic level, even before we would go out to do a study to do. So you Hans and Diana will be familiar with all the work that Mark did in creating that whole document to document regional parks, municipal parks, provincial parks, rec site and trails parks, trails managed by others, blah, blah, blah. In order to put into context for the consultants when they do come in, this is what the makeup actually is. And so we can work on something like that. And we can do, so what I would propose, and this would probably fall to Trish, myself, and Craig, and Tia, and maybe Ryan in particular, is to just draw up a terms of reference. We would get in touch with Susan, probably yourself, and Lori, and just make sure that it's encompassing everything that you're doing, and just draw up that terms of reference. Try to put what that staff time piece would be to it, and then maybe what the possibility of a budget would be. I think right now, and that would also include the village of Sept. In the end, I think Susan said something that was very important at the beginning. Maybe in the first couple seconds of what she said. We have a lot of facility for a small community.
Yep.
And that is actually your biggest challenge yet. Your biggest challenge. Asset management of those facilities into the future is the biggest challenge. Knowing and understanding. I can tell you right now, from my experience this last 2 weeks, well, even going through everything that we're going through in Castleberg, everything that we'll be going through in Nelson, asset management is going to be a very painful thing. And we need to come to grips and at least start writing things down. Start letting the community make it in a very transparent way, saying this is what is there. the fact of the matter is the way that we ran things 50 years ago is not the way we can run things today. Just don't get away with those things, rightly or wrongly. We don't get away with it. And I think that that's really the piece. Susan, thanks for the board bringing this forward. I don't know if you recall, but the commission attempted this about 10 years ago now, I guess.
Yeah, at least.
To bring this conversation forward. It maybe wasn't so willing at that time. I don't know if, it was very difficult getting SDYCC to engage. If this is coming, maybe it's the opportunity to actually have those discussions and actually make the community aware. But I do think there's opportunity here. It's just that we're going to have to think about it in a very different way.
So I'm going to use an example, Susan, is I get lots of inquiries of why the Village of Salmo does not have the community center open during the summer. And I'm like, the Village of Salmo does not run the community center. You need to go to the community center and ask the executive director or ask the board, find out who's on the board and ask one of them. So going to all these other, and I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, because I give the stories all over, always, about who owns what and all that kind of stuff. And I was just doing it today to our new CAO. But what it's also going to do is challenge groups, volunteer groups, to do a strategic plan. We have 2 people here that are on 4 different, maybe 5 different areas. What does that look like in groups? What does that look like for the ski hill to be able to sit down and go, okay, so this is what we're looking at strategically for the next 20 years, right? Like it's hard to do 5 years, and when we did our official community plan, that's supposed to look out 50 years, and that was multiple public engagement, 5 years in the making, and I had a room of 75 people screaming at me, telling me that they didn't hear anything about it. There was no engagement, there was nothing, for 3.5 hours. So that's my only concern, is how do we do this well to make sure that if we're going to do this, that we make sure that we have the small groups to be able to give that input and want to give that input, because they are all volunteers.
I think through the chair, Trish, by all means, if there's any, Trish knows that if I say something stupid, and Tia knows it as well, you can just say it.
Jump in.
We need to be honest.
Yeah.
So here's the number one thing. The best thing that local government can do is Band-Aid solutions so that the public doesn't have to get concerned.
That's right.
We do it all the time. It's only the next 25,000. It's only the next 100. It's only the next 150. But we never communicate to the group that if you want the pool, we need $2 million. Not yesterday. 5, 10 years ago, we needed the money, and we really need it now. Like, what gets people unfortunately motivated is finances.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one. Like, you'd be surprised at how many pre-consultations you do, then to go to referendum to find out the pre-consultations weren't very good.
That's
right? Like, and it's because in the end, it's a financial reality of it. It's the possible closure of something that drives, that really will tell you whether there's really support for something or not. And we can't be afraid of letting things go. That's the other piece Sometimes the answer might be letting something go. Until there's enough energy to resurrect it, and it might be a totally different form. But the one thing that we do really well in local government is the exact thing that works against us in the end, is that we piecemeal answers together.
It's the bandage approach.
Yeah, we do it we're incredibly effective at it.
Yeah.
So it's that fear of being honest with the public about where we are. So the first point that it starts at is identifying all the assets. Who owns them? Who are the primary users? How are they funded? If you were to look, Diana, at the bylaw for S226, so for Nelson, defined E and F, for the rec center, you'll see in that bylaw there's a chart.
Mhm.
And that chart says, this is who owns it, this is how it's funded, and this chart shall not change unless the public says it changes. To try and get it so that we're getting away from the piecemeal approach. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's the start of trying to make it real, because people are, the fundamental basis, people do not know who owns what. And that gets, who funds it, and then that gets confusing.
I just want to clarify something. Some people don't know. The older ones in the community know. And they are all, people we're having new people come in and they do, younger ones complain, oh, how come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing that? They don't realize that it has been volunteers to keep stuff going, to keep it cheaper. And I like that we write it down. I've been, trying to get a few of those done.
Through the chair,
Yes.
Salmo Golf Course is owned by the directors. We're paying the mortgage, actually back, so we're paying the mortgage. And a lot of people think that is a public facility. It is open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So when the winter comes around, the people think they can cross-country ski there anytime they want, which we're never going to stop. But we have signs up saying the area is closed. They still want to use it, and they still want to go across the breeze and stuff like that. So it's a facility we want the public to use, but we want them to respect it and realize that we are the owners.
I hear you, like that. Unfortunately, there's a disconnect now between what nothing was here and something is here.
Yeah.
And that disconnect is so long from the people that had to struggle to get the something, that people now just expect it. It's here. They expect it. And, we can see that in Castlegar with the imminent closure of the Pioneer Arena next year. We're going to see it in Nelson with the hard, frank discussions about the conditions of the facilities in that community. But there absolutely is a little bit of a disconnect there. And just so you know, what I'm suggesting is not it hopefully will move the needle to making it better. It will not, people will still remain,
The same.
some people will still remain disconnected and surprised.
Yeah.
But the thing that we can do is at least for us, for the decision makers, is get it written down on paper.
Yeah.
And then we can start talking about the solutions.
Okay, so developing a term of reference for an operational review of recreational services. Is that how detailed you would have the terms of reference?
So in the terms of reference, so I probably should have brought the Nelson terms of reference here for the study that we're about to undertake there. But I think that Trish and I In particular, Trish, is that okay? Yeah. She's not throwing darts at that through the screen. But that is where we would bring something back to see if we've heard you. And I think, and when I say that, I think I've heard over the last decade of working with you, I think I can get a pretty good job at a draft, not the final, the draft for you to be able to review and work from.
Okay. Susan, you did have your hand up. I don't know if you were clapping or if you were just putting your hand up again.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think that the board would look forward to seeing the drafted terms of reference for discussion. And see, I think, yeah, the idea is to see if there's any interest in pursuing looking at these things collaboratively. And I like the idea of the access point to start being the asset inventory. I think it's a good strategy. And I would hesitate about going out to do any kind of needs thing to the community because it builds such expectation, and I really don't want to be building any expectation right now. This for my board, this is about, is there an interest in this conversation, and if so, what's the scope of the conversation? That's where we're at. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I hear that, Susan, because, you know, that's why that inventory and that realistic framework is so important. Before you ask for people's expectations, you better know what they're on for already.
Because I know somebody's already asking for an arena again.
Yeah.
I mean, if we went out there and said, you know, how many different kinds of kids programming would you like us to run July and August? They're going to be like, oh, you guys are running new programming. Great. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's as quick as it goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to just read off this motion that we have here, that RDCK staff develop a terms of reference for an operational review of recreational services in Salmo and Area G with a proposed budget. And in that proposed budget, before it gets first and seconded, if it does, I would like the proposed budget to be, is this an equal share? Is this, like, how does that work? I don't want that, here's what it's gonna cost, $10,000. I want how it's gonna be broke up.
Okay.
Okay?
So you mean between just, when we bring the terms of reference, and we'll have a piece in there, then I think with the terms of reference, maybe that'll make that.
Right. Well, because if this is gonna be a partnership, I don't want that the youth center has come to us and said, oh, this is what the letter of intention, this is what we'd like to see, and then we take it on ourselves, because this is what the board is asking. And so I think that as a partnership, if that's what we're doing, that's why I was wanting to know, like, having that. So if you don't want to put it in there right now, that's okay.
That's right. I understand what you're saying. I just want to understand what the concept was.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any more discussion on that? I don't know if you can see. Hans, do you have any more discussion to it?
Hans, you're on mute if you're speaking. Sorry.
I thought most people liked it that way. Anyway, we need to start somewhere, and I like the idea of pulling this stuff together. I remember 10 years ago how it was suggested, but this year now we've got an even wider scope to look at and wider things to do, and I think it's worthwhile. Also, after we get it, we might want to send it out to other members of the community or other organizations to see what sort of input they would also have if we're looking at something broad. So I'm in favor of it anytime.
Thank you. Okay, so who would like to move that motion?
I can move it.
Margaret and Ian seconding. Any more debate on that? and it's just the four of us. Do we need to record that Susan's,
Oh, I'm sorry, for the vote.
For the
We
vote?
need to record that Susan recused herself for the vote. Yes. Pearl, just.
okay. Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Carried. I just didn't want us to forget that because she did say that she recused herself. And thank you for helping us understand where the board was coming from. I know it's kind of a little bit of an odd thing. We don't usually, if we recuse ourselves, we usually leave the meeting, but we needed you to be able to help us understand that. So we appreciate that. So our next thing is that we've had 2 resignations. Jay Lewis, because we didn't have our last meeting, because we didn't have quorum, he had actually resigned just before that meeting, and that was in May 7th. He sent an email that he had resigned, and then Marissa Kane resigned today. And I received the email at 4:05 today. So the reason that it's not on the agenda is because I thought that Jay's went straight to the board and I couldn't find it. So we're gonna put them both. We knew it.
Yeah.
We did know that he had resigned, but it needs to go to the RDCK board. And also, so if I could, that the board send a letter to outgoing members Jay Lewis and Marissa Kane, thanking them for their service at the RDCK. Would anybody like to move that?
Oh,
Susan said.
And Susan? So Ian and Susan, I don't know if there's not really any, debate on resigning. We can't tie their hands and say, you can't resign.
okay.
I
I didn't know until.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I saw, there's Susan, so thank you. That's carried. So what we're gonna do an article, or I'll do an article for the Salmo paper from the chair for the rec commission. And it will be short and sweet. It will talk a little bit about the summer program that was a success this year, and a little bit about the pool, not much. But what I'm going to put in there is that we need for sure 2 more. But December of this year, I believe everybody's seat is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't bring it, but that totally sounds correct.
So, I'm gonna ask you guys right now, because if somebody else resigns after this meeting, or at the end of the year, no, you can't write that. Then I would have to put out, so we have 1 from Area G and 1 from Salmo. Those 2 seats are available right now. So, the paper comes out the 3rd week in September or something like that. And we'll put it on the website of the RDCK and the Salmo. So there's a couple of people that I've thought of that are outside, that are in Area G and in Salmo. But we'll wait for anybody that's interested to come forward. We did have a person interested that did come forward and was from Area G, but we've had to say no. And the reason is because she is an RDCK staff person, just part-time, but you can't be an hour of RDCK staff and sit on the commission, or village staff. We wouldn't let a village staff person sit on the commission. That wouldn't be appropriate. So if you guys know of people, please convince them. It's interesting because people with younger children seem to tell me lots that they don't have the time. And I did convince Marissa to join. I said it's not that much, but she's struggling to make the time. So the two people that I've thought of have got older kids. So ask, I know there's lots of new people in town, that this would be really great to get them to, especially going through the terms of reference, to get them to really learn about what's in, and you guys know lots of new people. I know nobody. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna ask for public time, 8:17. I don't know if, I can't see if anybody.
There is a 55142.
Oh,
But I'm
it
like,
is, I don't know who that is. We have observer and 551, what did you say, 4252? Do either one of you have a question for us? Please unmute. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, Dan, it's Laura Stavis, the 551 number, and no, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the observer is not, we'll give just another few seconds. Okay, we'll continue on. To the next meeting is November the 25th. I know that, I'm not asking anybody if you're available right now. It is again a Monday night. We're still staying with Monday night. We will start talking budget at that time, so it's a meeting that would be really good to, if everybody can be in person. It's just a little bit easier, and that's all I have on the agenda. So does anybody else have any questions right now? Hearing none, we'll go for adjournment. All in favor? Thank you.
What did Tara want?
Sure.
You,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff.
I assume, I got a phone.
thanks.
Yes, a phone call.
Hi, Susan.
Good night.
Yeah, just to say, I know that I'm going to be at my mom's in November, so I'll be zooming in.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No.
It sounds so quick when you say it that way.
Zoom, zoom. Take
Have a
care.
good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
Well, she phones me,
Oh.